Okay, welcome everyone. Thank you all for joining today's session. My name is Daya. I am part of the Kanj 2025 Executive Committee and is in charge of our Kerala Women's United, a focus group for the women in the community. So this focus group is an initiative created to empower and support the women in our community. Our vision is to celebrate the strength, talents, and unity of women while building a space for collaboration and mutual support. For this forum, we need suggestions and ideas that are more importantly your needs, and we are here to listen, adapt, and ensure that every woman in our community feels valued and supported. Uh, I'm also proud to introduce our focus group members. We have Meera Bhaskar, Sangeeta Sebastian, Rosanna Paulos,
I don't know.
Jinu,
Yeah.
Meera Nandakumar,
Mama.
and Smita Bal. So if you have any thoughts or suggestions that you would like to us to cover in this year, uh, please do feel free to join, message any of us. And we also have a WhatsApp community if you are interested in joining, where you can share your ideas, provide feedback, so that we can have this as a bigger community to help each other and grow together. With that said, I would like to um, welcome our Kanj president, Sophia Matthew, to say a few words.
Hello, everyone. It is my absolute pleasure to welcome you all on behalf of Kerala Association of New Jersey. We are honored to have such a wonderful gathering of talented individuals here tonight, as well as our vibrant community members. As president, one of my key initiatives this year was the introduction of the Women's Forum. With that goal, the main goal was to bringing us together to create a meaningful and positive impact in our community. So a special thank you to Dr. Nandini Menon for her leadership in bringing together this incredible panel of inspiring women. As women, we have the unique ability not only to uplift ourselves, but also to empower those around us. When we support and inspire one another, we create a ripple effect of strength, confidence, and success that extends far beyond ourselves. Thank you all once again for being here and for your commitment to this journey of empowerment. Wishing you all a wonderful evening. Thank you, everyone. Back to you, Daya.
Thank you, Sophie, for that introduction. I would like next to welcome Meera Bhaskar to introduce our moderator. Meera, please go ahead.
Thank you, Manju. So I'm Meera Bhaskar. I'm part of this Kanj Women United focus group. And the task I'm assigned today is to introduce our moderator for today's panel discussion. I do take pleasure to introduce a remarkable individual who has made significant strides across multiple industries. And when it comes to a topic, a discussion about Kerala women who are change makers in America, there is no one who is more suitable to be a moderator for such a panel discussion. So it's none other than our own Dr. Nandini Menon. Dr. Menon is founder and chief education officer of Cedar Hill Prep School, which is a distinguished national blue ribbon independent school, which is known for its excellence in education. Her dedication in nurturing young minds has made a lasting impact on countless students and families. And when I say this, I can say it with 100% confidence that it is not just a students from her school. And her journey doesn't stop here. Dr. Menon is also a serial entrepreneur. She has achieved a successful career in textile industry and has transitioned into the world of wellness with the launch of Rosanne Botanicals, a brand that curates natural formulation for hair and skincare. She has also earned her doctorate in neuroscience and education from Johns Hopkins University and master's in textile engineering from Philadelphia Textile Thomas Jefferson University. Today, we are honored to have her in between us as moderator for our panel discussion. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Nandini Menon.
Thank you, Meera. You know, when you call me Dr. Nandini Menon, it just kind of feels so like I'm so used to being called Nandini Chechi that it is so hard to look at it and hear this and say, is that me that you're talking about? But thank you for that very warm welcome. Today, we're talking about Kerala changemakers in America. We're focusing on mainstream experiences. So, to add to what she said, I've lived in the United States for the last 38 years. Yes, I'm old. And I've loved every minute of my life as a student, as a designer, as an educator, as an entrepreneur, as a community builder, and experimenting with new hobbies and ventures. Because thank God nobody has stopped me yet. My life in America can be summed up with Carpe Diem, seize the day. Today, we have among our panelists Kerala women who have embraced multicultural experiences. They've embraced learning, risk taking, and leadership in different sectors, from academia to nonprofits, corporate leadership to entrepreneurship. So, before I introduce the panelists, I would like to also welcome all the viewers. Thank you for celebrating these accomplished women and for being curious and wanting to gain insights to help you with your
No,
individual.
I don't think I have made an account. You have been
Chitra, you have to mute
years ago.
yourself,
I didn't
Chitra.
record the.
Okay. To afford active participation, we encourage you to use the chat function in Zoom to post your questions along with your email ID. Why? Because our intent is to address your questions either in this panel discussion or via email. We will be addressing the questions that were shared with us by the Kanj women when they were polled last week, and sincerely hope these questions address some of your interests. Our agenda for the day is to address key issues that resonate with many women. Our overarching goal is to support women's development. So, to begin with, I would like to share insights about female leaders and their impact on society. A study by Dr. Alice Eagley found that compared to their male counterparts, female leaders are inspirational role models, foster good relationships, develop team skills, and motivate others to exceed expectations. Women leaders frequently perform better than men in areas like empathy, communication, organization, compassion, honesty, and ethics. However, women face numerous barriers. Number one, societal barriers. These are based on deeply ingrained cultural norms and biases that shape women's role in the workplace. To discuss this further, I would like to introduce Dr. Sanjana Koshi and Dia Matthews. Dr. Sanjana Koshi is the medical director of the Antimicrobial Stewardship Program at Mount Sinai Downtown, Western Morningside. She's also an associate professor for infectious diseases at Icahn School of Medicine. Dr. Koshi received her medical degree from Madras Medical College, Chennai. She completed her internal medicine residency, chief residency, and fellowship in infectious diseases at Beth Israel Medical Center, New York. Her special interests include HIV/AIDS and other sexually transmitted diseases, travel medicine, and the treatment of multi-drug resistant bacterial infections. Dia Matthews is a partner and senior attorney based in New Jersey, and she works for Chug LLP. Her practice focuses primarily on business, immigration law, and corporate compliance. Dia received her LLM from the University of Michigan Law School, where she was a Michigan Grotius Scholar. So let's hear from them about coping with societal barriers. First, I'm going to ask Dr. Koshi about work life balance. How do you balance career, personal life, and passions? Is there such a thing as balance? And in terms of career development, what advice would you give to young women entering this profession or organization? Or also, please comment about women who are trying to find a job after a long break. Sanjana?
Nandini, thank you so much. I hope the audio is okay.
Yes.
All right. Thank you for that introduction. It is my privilege to spend the next hour and a half with all of you and with this incredible panel. So, work-life balance, does it exist? I think it does. It's fairly elusive, but I think it does. And there is always a price to pay for that. Um, I think it means different things for different people and at different stages in their career. I mean, when you have, if you have a child, preschooler, young adult, there are different things that various demands on our time, and making time for yourself, or drawing that line between work and home is always very complicated. Having said that, I think it's still a work in progress for me. But there are a few things that I have learned in the last 25 odd years, which I tend to adhere to, which works for me. And, it's not, adhering to it is the most complicated part of it. So the first thing that I think in the last 10 years paid more attention to is setting certain boundaries. Work boundaries and home boundaries. Work, some of the things that I do is, weekends. If I'm not on call or I'm not on service, I do not check emails. I do not look at messages. People who need to reach me in an emergency know how to get to me, and we, have that conversation. But I try to, limit that. In terms of home, I think it's important to set aside the time to recuperate and recharge for everyone. And the first thing is actually sitting down and taking a look at your schedule, if you're a hyper scheduler like I am, and carving out that time for yourself or with your family where work doesn't impinge on that. For me, it's a Saturday morning, a Sunday evening where you give yourself the time to recharge and recuperate. Again, none of this is possible without familial support. That's key. If you happen to have a partner, the buy-in and the support is incredibly important. The third thing is outsourcing what you can without feeling a lot of guilt about it. So taking a good hard look at all your various responsibilities or things that you do. And I mean, at the end of the day, we're looking at time management, right? And so, taking a look at all that you as a woman, in my case, as a physician, as a mother, all the things that you have to do, and giving up on the things that you feel you're not the best suited to do, and feeling no guilt for that. And I think that's very important for all of us. And it takes a while to get there, and it takes a while for us to understand. In my case, cooking is not my thing, and that's not something that I do very well. And that was one of the first things I wanted to outsource as much as I can. I enjoy cooking, but by no means am I a great cook. So if my family actually depended on me for their sustenance, it would be a very bad thing. So understanding where you came from, your strengths and things, and outsourcing, and being very confident in that if you have the agency to make those choices. So yeah, that's my little 2 cents on work-life balance.
Perfectly said, Sanjana. Perfectly said. Now I'd like to move on to Dia and ask, the legal profession demands long hours and unwavering commitment. As a woman and an immigrant, how did you manage the dual pressure of proving yourself in a competitive field while also addressing familial expectations? Piggybacking on what Sanjana said.
Right. Thank you. So I'll just start off by saying, Nan, that I have locked myself into a room to protect myself from my 12-year-old and my 6-year-old boys. So if they come, flying through the door, please excuse. But that's how let me start off with that for work-life balance, right? But I guess on a more serious note, we Malayali women, we are so lucky, right? Because we have excellent role models. Because women in Kerala have been in the workforce for a very long time, right? Like my grandmoms, my mom, my aunts. In fact, I think one of my aunts is on the call. If she is, shout out to Auntie. But they've all been working for a long time, and so I think for us, it was not that it's not a foreign concept that women will work outside the home. So we're starting off from that point. But like it's how do we do justice to all the roles that we play in our life, right? And so the first thing I tell myself, and I tell other young women too, is that we have to lower the pressure on ourselves, the expectations, right? Acknowledge that we are not infallible, we are not perfect, we're not going to be able to do, like maintain that perfect home and make sure our kids are always well dressed and also deliver the perfect work product at home. That's not going to happen every day. But there are a few things that you can do. And so the one thing that helped me personally, I think, is that in my 20s, I worked very, very hard, very long hours. And I like to think I kind of built the credibility at work by doing that. And so now in my 40s, I have a little more control over my time, and so I'm able to decide how I want to spend the time. If I want to do a webinar or something in the middle of the day at work, my employer is not going to have a problem with that. So that's one thing, that you work hard when you can, and then you decide later on, once you have kids and all of that, how to prioritize. And then understanding, and I'm still working on this, as I'm sure others are, but also you have to understand that there is a difference between what is urgent and what is important, right? Because there'll always be that urgent, client call or that email to be responded to. And so you're chasing after that. So sometimes the important stuff like your health or your children or your relationships, those tend to take a backseat. So you have to kind of remind yourself that, what is important and what is urgent. And then, of course, the last thing, as Dr. Koshi herself said, finding that right partner, right? The most important decision that you make in your life is, the person you marry. And so getting their buy-in and, and you do what you can for them, right? And you also expect a little bit from them. So that's how I have managed. Thank you.
Very well said. And again, it takes two to tango, right? And I absolutely, we should all acknowledge that many of us should attribute and should recognize that we didn't do it alone. We did it because we had support. And that support makes a lot of what we do possible, because a sense of loneliness only erodes on that confidence. So, based on that, now I would like us to move on to the second big issue facing women, and this relates to organizational barriers. Women are underrepresented and their numbers decline as they move up the career ladder. Women are often overlooked in leadership roles that require strategic decision making, access to networking, and high visibility projects. Men are 25% more likely than women to have a sponsor. To address these issues, I would like to introduce Vidya Kishore and Samira Menon. Vidya Kishore is a global HR senior leader at Johnson & Johnson. Currently, she leads the talent strategy and workforce for the Global Business Services Group at J&J. Prior to this, Vidya worked several years as a software developer in India and the US. She has a master's in human resource management from Rutgers. She's done her executive education from Cornell University and a bachelor's degree in chemistry from WCC, right? No, Etiraj
Etraj.
in, sorry, Etiraj in Chennai. Yes. Samira Menon is the senior director at Clark University, responsible for overseeing institutional advancement systems, managing financial reports for the president and board of trustees, and leading the Clark Advancement AI Lab. Prior to joining Clark University, she worked at a Salesforce partner company, AthenaQuest, helping higher education clients with advancement solutions. She also worked at MIT in their Office of Advancement, working closely with the President's Office. Samira has an MBA from Babson College and a bachelor's degree in computer science from Rutgers University. For Vidya Kishore, the corporate world is often described as a boys' club, especially for women of color. Can you share a moment when you felt your voice was overlooked? And how did you turn that into an opportunity to break the glass ceiling? Also, many of these women also want you to address the following. What is the best way to negotiate salary and scope of work? Go with there.
Okay, so that's a three-part question. And before I jump in, I want to say kudos to the Kanj team and the incredible leaders for putting this panel together. It's truly a pleasure and an honor to be here. So let me start by saying, I had I started working when I was 22, and by the time I was 30, I'd worked at 5 different companies. And then I joined my current company and I've stayed there for 20 years. And if I reflect on the boys club attitude, so to speak, or situations, of course, I've run into them a few different times, and I navigated very well now, and I didn't in the beginning. But if I reflect on why I didn't manage it well in the beginning, I would say it's a couple of different things. One is my own lack of self-confidence. I had my academic credentials. I did very well in school, but that didn't necessarily translate into how confident I was in situations, knowledge of my own self-worth so that I could speak up and ask for things. And then, you are in companies and you meet people who are not progressive, period, and they're not going to change. So also my ability to assess bad situations and say, hey, this is not going to change, so I need to cut myself loose from this and just move somewhere else. So long story short, a lot of learnings in those first 8 years. And then I would say, if I reflect on, rather than talk about an individual situation, I would say my broader learnings have been, you need to, again, know your own self-worth. But I would say even joining my current company, I was really armed, I would say, not only with my education and all of my experiences, but a really compelling story. I put it together to say, how does it serve the company that I'm joining? So I remember making this whole business case on why J&J needs to hire me, because I had all these fantastic experiences with my undergrad in chemistry, my IT experience, plus my HR experience, and how put that together made me like the best talent ever to join the company that I want. Which at that time, J&J was my dream company and continues to be. And I was successful because at that point, the HR LDP program was a very competitive, highly coveted experience right out of a master's in HR. There were 8 spots that year, and I was one of the highest. So that's what I would say. So hopefully there's some takeaways on, bumpy experiences. I continue to run into them. But I think I remind myself of my younger self and how I work through those challenges. And that helps me even today. So I think I answered 2 parts. And so coming to the final part on how do you best negotiate salary scope, I would say I would repeat the same things that I said. I think number 1, knowing your strengths, knowing how you're contributing to the company, what results you're driving, and then and being really aware of your self-worth. Second, do your research. Be aware of, okay, based on what you're contributing in the market and looking at your peers in other companies, are you underpaid, overpaid? Obviously, if you're overpaid, you you shouldn't negotiate your salary. But if you think you're being paid below, then do your research and then link those two in some of your strategic conversations, and make sure you're linking increased scope to increased pay and making that happen.
Well said. Well said. And I think that's a connection that everybody should really. I mean, I have to take the employer stand out there, and I tend many times I'm on the other side when they're negotiating, and I always say, there is the resources are so much. We have to work within that, and then you need to tell me what your USP is. So great job. Thank you, Vidya. Now, moving on to Samira, you're going to just touch upon some of this too. And the question is, if you could mentor your younger self, what would you tell her about navigating corporate politics in the US as a woman of color? Did it matter at all? Who besides yourself played the most critical role in your success?
Thank you, Nandini, and thank you for inviting me to this forum. It's a pleasure to be here. I would tell my younger self to really advocate for yourself. That is something that I still have that's something that I still find it challenging for myself because I do go through imposter syndrome. I still think that I'm not good enough. I think there's better candidates out there when you're applying for jobs or better positions out there for other people and not for myself. So it's really looking at yourself and being proud of all your achievements and really vocalizing that you have got the skill set, you've got the education, and the expertise to do your job and do it well. So really being vocal about it, talking to your peers about your achievements and your aspirations, because the networking is so key. And that leads me to the second point about building relationships. When you vocalize about yourself and your aspirations and you build those relationships, that really helps in navigating in corporate politics. It helps you in getting into climbing up the ladder, building relationships, and and they help you advocate. They actually advocate for you when you're not in the room as well. And that has personally helped me a lot throughout my career as well. Um, the other thing is, I would say, emotional intelligence. Is really going to be your superpower. Learn to navigate difficult conversations. That is something I personally had some challenges with. That we deal with that at home as we have kids that have teenagers. Those are naturally, or even toddlers. Those are easy examples of difficult conversations and negotiation skills that you build up even with your kids and that you can apply at the workplace. So learning how to manage difficult conversations, how to stay composed under pressure. Again, another skill that you learn as a parent through with kids as well that you can apply at the workplace. All those things really help shape who you are, because as you climb up the corporate ladder, perception really matters and risk taking really matters, and how you are composed really matters as well. So and then Nandini, to your other question, does being a woman of color matter? Absolutely. I have faced it. I've been in very technical roles. They look at me. There's a lot of biases that I have navigated, but I'm very comfortable in my own skin. My work shows for itself. I really don't care what others think. So it's really how to, figuring out how to navigate that, and that's through confidence. Make sure you have confidence in yourself, you believe in yourself, and you'll get through. When you think about who played the most important role, is really the community. Now, I was thinking about, whether it be your family or friends, but it's really the community, and community is key. And I'm so happy this session is happening here. I think we're building something beautiful, and thank you, Sophia, for starting this forum. Nandini, this is fantastic. I think women really need to help each other in different parts of their stages in their life. And if we help each other and see each other grow, it makes a huge difference. Community is the key. Like we say about parenting, it takes a village to raise a child. It does take our community to raise each other up and lift each other up. So having a community makes a difference.
And so, the key takeaways from everybody is self-worth is important. recognizing we are part of a bigger picture. Believe me, our success, I would love to believe that we did it all by ourselves, but we know it takes a village and a bigger village. It takes a sense of belonging. We all need to foster a sense of belonging. So now this segues us to the third pressing issue for women, and that is personal barriers. The internal challenge that can affect confidence, ambition, and career growth. 1 in 5 women severely lacks confidence, according to reports from the Labor Department. Additionally, many women underestimate their abilities. Women also face a double burden of balancing professional responsibilities with family obligations. To address questions related to empowerment, I'm going to introduce 3 women. These 3 women are Dr. Geeta Menon, Priyanka Joseph, and Shri Menon. Dr. Geeta Menon is the Abraham Krasnoff Professor of Global Business at NYU Stern School of Business. She is the chair of the marketing department, and before that, she was the 11th dean of the NYU Stern Undergraduate College for 8 years. In 2015, the Economic Times named her one of the 20 most influential global Indian women. In 2022, the American Marketing Association bestowed her with the Lifetime Achievement Award for her extraordinary academic and service contributions. She earned her PhD in business administration from the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. Next, I'd like to talk about Priyanka Joseph. She is an pricing actuary. A quiz for everybody. Go find out what an actuary is. She works as a pricing actuary with Gen Re, a Berkshire Hathaway company. Her responsibilities include analysis and assessment of life and health in reinsurance portfolios for the purposes of risk management, experience studies, planning, and quotation. Priyanka earned her master's in engineering from Wright State University, Ohio, and has a bachelor's degree in engineering from Mahatma Gandhi University, India. Shri Menon. Shri Menon is an operating partner at FalconX, a premier global accelerator and venture firm. Most recently, she was the co-founder and CEO of Acorn Connections, a fertility tech startup revolutionizing third-party reproduction. Very women-related. Previously, she held P&L responsibilities as COO of Top Hatter, General Manager of eBay Motors, and Director of eBusiness Americas at Dell. She holds an MBA from Symbiosis University, Pune. And now they are going to give us insights on how to navigate when we are our biggest hurdles with our own mind. For Geeta, you are considered one of the 20 most influential global Indian women. I want to touch you, you know. You were the president of the Association of Consumer Research, one of the largest marketing academic associations in the world. What personal skills have contributed to your success? What do you think is the most significant barrier to female leadership? Go, Geeta.
Hi, everyone. As they say, hindsight is 2020 or close enough. It's not like any of what I've done is strategic, but when I look back, I can see some pieces falling into place that might have led to some of my career developments. Dia mentioned something really important, which is to build credibility in your 20s. And I cannot say how important that hard work is. You need to set the blueprint to some extent, but be flexible. That's the part that we have difficulty with. We come up with a blueprint of our lives, and then suddenly we're kind of surprised when things don't go that way. So hard work is not something that was novel to me. I grew up as a Navy brat. My father moved every year. I went to 10 schools before I finished my 10th grade. So, and my mother took a lot of pride in my performance in school so she could brag to others. And so there was no choice but to be in the ranked number top 3 or, top actually. So hard work was not something that was alien to me. And I worked my ass off. I made any bones about the fact that I know how to work hard. But along with that, I think some of us who have A-type personalities always have focus. We have a goal. We have to achieve that goal and we are focused. One of the things I learned pretty early is that be focused, but not so focused that you don't recognize opportunities that come your way. And I never wanted to leave India. I wanted to be in India, Bharat Bhakt and all that. But there was an opportunity for me to come and do my PhD in the United States. And so I kind of explored that, and that led me to my career. I did not want to be a dean ever. I am a researcher. I believe in intellectual integrity and forget all this dean stuff and fundraising and stuff. So when I was nominated, the first thing I did is say no. And then I was having dinner with my son and he asked me what happened today. And I told him, and he said he was a student at Tisch at that time. And he said, but you love hanging with my friends and you can make such a difference. And that's when I thought that, oh, this might actually be an opportunity that's worth considering, at least for the short term. And that's how I ended up being dean. And so when I look back, I see certain patterns which I can kind of call out as things that help me professionally. But one of the most important things is also to develop your skill set. And I think, yes, Samira mentioned that, skill sets are so important. So you need to invest. I used to be an economist, and that's because my dad wanted me to do economics. So the first opportunity I got in my PhD program, I became a psychologist. But that was nuts because I didn't have any psychology background at all. But I went straight to PhD seminars with psychology students who have had years of training. So I was always running just to keep up. And, it was a nightmare, but it's something I knew that I wanted to do. And I invested the time for that. So developing that skill set is really important. The other aspect I was reflecting on is that I've been a single parent. And that put me in a very high risk situation that if I lost my job, I have a child to take care of. And what am I going to do? So at a very young age, and I came from the University of Illinois. It was not one of these Ivy League schools, I could easily be gotten rid of and could be replaced by someone else from an Ivy League school. So that threat kind of sat with me. So I decided to invest in being known professionally so that if I got kicked out of NYU, I'll find another job easily. So I literally took up editorships, I gave talks, I became chair as an associate professor, chair of the department as an associate professor, which was unheard of. But I just took on responsibility both internally and externally so that I was kind of, laying the groundwork for possible lack of job at NYU, with tenure and stuff like that. Those things can be full of pressure. So, that's something else that I really remember. And something that you guys said earlier about juggling. Rubber balls and glass balls is the analogy I use, because when you have a lot of balls in the air, you have to know which ones you can afford to drop. The rubber balls will come back up. The glass balls will crash and burn. So you need to kind of figure out what the glass balls are and prioritize those. And so picking up my kid when he's sick in school, no option, have to do that. But if I have to drop the deadline on a paper, so be it. So those kind of things are important to prioritize. The last thing I want to add, and this is really discovering what your superpower is, as Samira said. iPhone 15 Pro. So you have to have a sense of humor. I mean, not you have to have, I had to have a sense of humor. I knew that was my superpower. And so I try to make situations a little light, because once a person laughs, I've discovered that they take in information and are able to engage in a conversation in a more friendly manner. So whether it's a boardroom, whether it's a meeting that I'm chairing, a meeting I'm a participant in, whether I'm teaching, my students think I'm very funny and think I should do stand-up comedy. But I'm sure I couldn't pull off 15-minute set. But the expectations are so low in the classroom that anything I say seems funny. So I like the sense of humor because it keeps things light. It keeps the receptive nature of people. And so I discovered that that is something that I can handle. And that's how I broke down a lot of walls, whether it's at the, peers or bosses or subordinates. I just feel like that really helped me as in the workplace a lot and with my friends. So I, just kind of see what works best for you, I guess, and use that. Thank you.
Very well said. And to piggyback on what she said, I always say a smile goes a long way. If people see you with a scowl, that body language is already saying, whoa, think twice before we start this conversation. But these are simple body language, body mechanics that also help you in friendships and in your professional life because it breaks down barriers. Moving on to Priyanka Joseph. What inspired you to pursue a career in actuarial science and what challenges have you faced? Priyanka, I want you to explain actuarial science. I do that in school for a lot of my math geeks because I tell them, why don't you become an actuary? Very few people know about it, but it's a very interesting field for people who love math. What challenges did you face breaking into the insurance industry? And how did you build credibility in a niche field? And the third part, what advice do you have to the younger generation who would like to pursue the same? Go, Priyanka.
Hey guys, so glad to be here. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Thanks for having me, Nandini. I'm so excited to be on this distinguished panel. Well, now I can't ask you how many of you know what an actuary is. എത്ര പേർക്കറിയാം, actuary എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് അല്ലേ? Honestly, I didn't know about it. Like, if you asked me what an actuary was 15 years back, I had no clue. I had never heard the word. To be very general, we use math and statistics to predict the financial impact of future events. But what my kind of actuary, a pricing actuary, does is we do the math behind your insurance prices. Okay, this is a very oversimplified statement. I'm sure my colleagues would not be happy if they hear this. They do a lot more than that, but in layman's terms, this is what it is. This is what I do on a daily basis. And on me becoming an actuary, it was a totally random thing. I was an electrical engineer by education. I was working as an engineer in Ohio. Then we moved to the Northeast. It was easier to get into IT once I moved here. There were not as many electrical engineering jobs as much as, the Midwest for some reason. So like most Indians, I was working in the IT department as a business architect at my current company, which is a reinsurance company. I don't know whether you know what a reinsurance company is. Basically, we insure insurance companies. So I work for a company called Genry, and it's a Berkshire Hathaway company. You may have heard about our big boss, Warren Buffett. So what we do is we insure the State Farm, the Liberty Mutual, all your primary insurance companies. So that's what I do. I price those deals for Genry. How much should I charge State Farm or Liberty Mutual or one of those big insurance companies for us insuring them? Anyway, that was how I forayed into the wonderful world of insurance. It was just by accident, because we moved to the Northeast. Although I was in IT, I was always fascinated by the business side of things. In IT, we are all in mode, I wanted to be where all the action was. So I started taking some exams and certifications for insurance education. And one day when I was having lunch in the cafeteria, a senior actuary joined our table. He introduced himself. I must have conveyed my desire or curiosity about the actuarial field. And he asked me to join his team. Of course, I had to go through all sorts of interviews. They were painful, but eventually I was hired. So it was a totally an unplanned thing that happened. ജീവിതം തന്നെ അങ്ങനെയല്ലേ, നമ്മൾ ഒരെണ്ണം പ്ലാൻ ചെയ്യും, വേറൊന്ന് സംഭവിക്കുന്നു. But that being said, I put myself out there. I somehow conveyed and I somehow let him know consciously or subconsciously that I'm interested in this field. The whole thing is lottery ticket eduthalale adikkullu. So I had to, lottery ticket edukandavanu. Anyway, so some of the challenges that I faced, the first challenge was I was working with very smart people, the likes of math graduates from Princeton, UMich and all, it is always a challenge to measure up to them. But on the other hand, I had and still have a lot to learn from my colleagues. There is never a dearth of learning, Every day, every conversation, I get a new nugget of information. So there are some benefits to being the dumbest person in the room. You get to learn a lot from other people. Another main challenge exams that you have to take to become a credential.
Close ചെയ്തു വെക്കണേ.
Can you mute yourself, please? Yeah. Go ahead, Priyanka.
Okay. To understand, I was talking about the hard exams that we have to do as an actuary. To understand how hard these exams are, I know many of you would be familiar with Nobel laureate and one of the greatest economists of all times, Milton Friedman. And he said in one of his interviews that he started out trying to be an actuary, and he gave up finally because he didn't pass his credentialing exams as an actuary. So for me, I have 5 kids, and I made my career switch after having the 5 kids, and I was taking my exams after the 5 kids, so it was all the more harder for me. So that was a challenge I faced. Yeah, those are the challenges that I can think of per se for the actuarial profession.
So what advice do you have for the younger generation?
Yeah, so I was thinking about it. I'd say, ask yourself some questions. Do you love numbers? You should be okay with crunching numbers and looking at spreadsheets all day long. Would you be okay with hanging out with math nerds? Would you be okay not having a lot of people time in your daily work life? Are you totally committed to taking the exams? And it requires a lot of dedication and hard work. If your answer is yes to all these questions, I would say go for it. Being an actuary is a respected career, which gives you a well-paid, stable job until AI takes over, But so far, it's a very stable career. I see actuaries that have been with the company for 30, 40 years. My son has just joined as a junior actuary, and he said his boss has been in the company for 35 years, and his peer has been in the company for 30 years, reporting to the same boss. Talk about not getting bored with each other. I mean, you can imagine seeing the same face for
That's like marriage, right?
That's like it has to be better than that. You're with your spouse only for a certain amount of time during the day. This is like stars, So yeah, so it's a very stable career. And if you love math and if you're committed to doing the exams, I'd say, go for it. I mean, it's a profession that is, that has almost 100% employment rate.
Correct. Thank you, Priyanka. And I need to toot her horn. I think she's the only South Asian. Now her son has joined too, but definitely there are very few South Asian women actuaries. So kudos to you for having accidentally come upon something that actually we all benefit from, or a lot of families benefit from. So now the question is for Shri Menon. Shri, having left a highly successful corporate career to pursue your startup journey, what advice would you give to individuals who believe they have groundbreaking ideas but are held back by fear of taking the plunge? What kind of support systems, whether personal, professional, or institutional, would you recommend they lean on to navigate that leap of faith? Additionally, reflecting on your transition, what were the top 3 mindset or lifestyle changes you had to make before and during your shift from the structured world of corporate to the unpredictable, fast-paced life of a startup founder?
Awesome. Thank you, Chichi. So just to be, completely clear, she's my sister. We look different because we are cousins. Our mothers are sisters, and my dad was on the darker side, so I look more like
Stop it.
dad. That's great. I'm just saying that's why we're different, but we are the same human. We have the same DNA. Although I think I have more of a contrarian streak, so I apologize. I could not make this whole thing work in the background. But my hopefully my name is out there on the screens. But thanks, Chichi, for putting me after Priyanka. She has 5 children. She is got like look at her illustrious life, and you put me right behind after that. I just have one child, and I'm exhausted. She's 5. I don't know how she's alive, but there we go. Um, Also, Priyanka, I live in California now. My insurance rates are really, really high. I hope you can take a look at that.
No, I can't do anything in California. Sorry.
Okay, she doesn't cover that. Anyway, this is awesome. Thank you so much for having me. Nandini Chechi, very kind of you to have gotten me. Really lovely to meet all of you, all women, and get to know you. All the folks I know in my life here in Silicon Valley are in tech. So it's wonderful to meet people from different vocations. Let me quickly tell you my story, and then I can kind of go into the advisory.
3 minutes.
Okay. Yes. I can shorten it. So my story is I loved being in corporate. I had hundreds of people in my role. I was a quasi CEO running a big shop at eBay, $8 billion and all that. Great stuff. But I just felt pretty held back somehow despite that, right? I felt that I had ideas and I wanted to do things and I wanted to move faster. There was so much I could do. And the impact of what we did, it was impactful. We would be kind of called by in the investor reports as well on how well eBay Motors is doing. But you couldn't really see the impact directly as you could when you're in a smaller company. And I wanted to build, and I had that intense feeling that I should and do something about it. And it was extremely risky. Now it's risky, you make a lot of money, you've never done this before, you're older, you have a lot stacked against you in terms of it doesn't go well. You've kind of lost a lot of experiences that you had, and then you have to start over again. There were lots of concerns, but I didn't want to die having felt that I had not tried my best in doing something that I really wanted to do. And if I wanted to go back to corporate, if I want to at some point in time, hopefully I can do that. That was my thinking. So how I took the risk, which is you have to take a calculated risk. In my case, my son had already kind of reached a point, and financially we were at a stage where I felt I could take the risk. Now I was in Silicon Valley, so it's really helpful for me because I spent a lot of time before founding a company in building my network. So network of VCs, network of angels. I myself was an investor, so an advisor at various companies. So I knew what founders were going through. I was uh, having been an investor, you kind of like also have to analyze the companies before you invest in them. And this was angel investing, not professional, small checks, but still you have to go through that. So that kind of gave me an exposure as well of how of that startup world. And then I did transition to a smaller company. I was a CEO at Top Hatter, which is a $300 million company. I went from 8 billion to 300 million, but then it was a lot more hands-on, and you have to do stuff. So I'm kind of blending some of the questions together. So one thing you have to be ready when you go into a startup mode is you have to ready to roll up your sleeves and do stuff. I really missed when I was in big companies. You would have a lot of prestige. I'd go to conferences, people would wait outside to try to talk to me and all that. And then when I went to the small company, nobody cared about meeting with me. I'd have to. I'm like, what happened? You guys don't want to talk to me? Then no, so there's that ego that you have to let go, and you have to be ready for that emotionally. And so, there's pros and cons there. I've used, business class and blah, 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 flying to really trying to save money and splitting the room cost with someone else. That you have to be ready for that mindset, which was hard. The other thing is you have to have line of sight when you're studying an idea of what are you going to how are you going to fund it, because funding is like the biggest thing. Why companies don't succeed is because they have no line of sight to funding. So there's some thought there that I would suggest, if you have an idea you want to think about that. And also, by the way, you can try and do things on the side. And really, the fundamental reason why people do get funded, and I know that men get funded more, we'll talk, I'll cover that in just a second. But if you're really clear on what you want and you have a vision, you will be able to find people to fund you and support you. But that, I think, is very important. You have to have that conviction. Um, uh, and please, if you don't mind muting all the newcomers. So those are some of the things that I'd say before you jump in, and also be very clear on your evaluation of risks. As I mentioned before, what would happen if it fails, because it's very likely will fail. Are you going to be okay with that? And then not to take it personally. People do fail, men fail, women fail. Men are a lot more comfortable with failure than women are. We take it personally. Let's not do that. So those are some of the things that I would say. I'll say that on my side, what I'm trying to do to help women who want to be entrepreneurs, whether they're small, medium businesses, or they want to be just generally AI aware, or of course technical. Many of you Malayalis, us Malayalis are probably technical. I really want to encourage more women to be technical founders and creators of companies, because it is the creators of companies who make the wealth. And that is the biggest way to drive down inequity. I think everything else is nonsense. You make money, you're going to be equal. So I encourage you to do that. I have founded an organization within FalconX, a platform called empowerher.ai. I'm glad to see you guys. We have Empower Her in our logo here as well. So feel free to find me there and join the movement. We do a lot of workshops and trainings, and I'm happy to support all of you all, or any men, women, anybody who wants to be launching their own companies, and hit me up on LinkedIn. I'll be happy to help.
We'll do that. Okay, Shri? Thank you, Parchej, for coming. So now I would like it goes back to Dia, because I think for segueing into entrepreneurship, there is some legal advice that everybody should get. And asking Dia, for those in our community looking to start small businesses like dance schools, cooking classes, or tailoring services while on visas like H4 and without an EAD, what steps would you recommend to ensure they operate legally and successfully? How important is it to register such businesses, and what challenges should they be aware of?
So Nan, I think we should have another webinar just on this topic. One
Correct.
day we'll get to it, hopefully, but at a high level. And, this is, obviously
true.
this is, I have to give the disclaimer, this is not legal advice, just, general terms, I would say. Let me start with saying that you should not work without valid work authorization in the US, right? So, about 10 years ago, they introduced EADs for people in H4 status. And that was a very hard fought victory, right? Because, people, especially I think a lot of Indian women who are, affected by, because they were in H4 status, dependent status for a long time, they had fought very hard for the EAD. And so that if you're eligible for the EAD, please make sure you get the EAD and you renew it timely and all of that, all the good stuff, right? Now, once you have the EAD, you can work, right? There's no question about it. If you don't have an EAD, what can you do, right? You cannot work for the business, but you can incorporate, you can set up a business. Just like you can own stock in Amazon or Google or any of these companies, you can be 100% shareholder in a corporation. So there is, that's definitely something you can do irrespective of your immigration status. But it's a different thing whether you can actually work for that entity. So that's where you need work authorization. Now, just, a few pointers: always incorporate. You can do an LLC, which is very simple, very less compliance, or maybe a C corp. But incorporating or having that entity gives you a level of protection that you will not have if you are running the business in your own name. So always incorporate. And then once you set up the LLC or whatever it is, treat it as a different entity from yourself, right? It's a corporation, LLC, whatever, it has to be respected. So don't, commingle funds, run it like a proper business. So that's just on the corporate side. And then you should get some professional liability insurance, right? So, that's generally available. There's a lot of vendors out there. Speak to, maybe not Priyanka, I think she's too high up for for professional liability insurance, but that's generally something you should do. And then if you have any employees, so generally what people do is if they don't have an EAD, they will set up an entity, and then, that entity obviously can have employees. Once you have employees, and even if it is only 1 or 2 employees, make sure you have the necessary coverage for them, like workman's compensation, disability, unemployment insurance, all of those are very small things. And so when you're caught up in running a business, you forget to get those things. But New Jersey, New York, those states are very particular about it, and you might get a notice many months later saying that you're liable for thousands of dollars because you've not obtained the necessary workman's comp or unemployment insurance coverage. And you can do it through ADP or one of those. They'll take care of it for you. The other point is there is a lot of funding available out there, right? Like Sri said, generally, women, I think I read a statistic somewhere that women get only about 2% of VC funding, right? And but there's a lot of grants and things available out there. And of course now again DEI is under some sort of
Yeah.
like it's obviously not being viewed the same, but there's a lot of funds earmarked for minority and women-owned businesses. So seek that out, right? Like the NJEDA, for example, the Employment Economic Development Authority, and the CIST. These are all agencies that they're always trying to get the funds to you. So of course there's qualifying requirements, but you can definitely access those types of funding. So that's available. So get the women and minority certification from the state of New Jersey or one of those certification panels. So those are a few, at a, I guess, a high level, those are things that you should keep in mind if you're interested in setting up your own business. And then, of course, if you have any other questions, I'm happy to talk offline.
So I agree with Dia that, the goal with this forum and for Kanj is to segue into providing more targeted help to the larger community. So here, I actually wanted every panelist. So this brings us to the end of the preliminary questions that we all had from the Kanj folks. And every panelist, wow, you lit everyone's fire. And this was awesome. So what I would like to do, it's 7:06. We want to open it up for a Q&A session. I would like to ask you like a rapid fire round. Just one big takeaway from each panelist. What one critical skill and competency do you think each person should cultivate to excel in today's dynamic career environment? So, Geeta, you want to start? You're the first on my screen on the left.
Oh boy. I would, I want to go back to this confidence issue because there's so much research which shows that, I don't know what you can do about your own confidence, but at least in bringing up the next generation. I feel like confidence is one of the things that you can really inculcate in the next generation. It's one of those killers. There's all this research which shows that below the age of 25, women have so much less confidence than men. And in fact, the competence that women have is much higher than the confidence that they have, as opposed to men whose confidence is higher than their competence. And the funny thing is that this kind of comes through in a lot of research as well. For example, in corporate finance, There's research that showed that men fall prey to this bias, and in fact, they perform worse than women. But something happens by the age of 40, and women tend to learn from their performance and self-correct, and their confidence kind of matches their competence more. And that's when you see a lot more flourishing of women. It's also kind of a paradox because I know you said rapid fire, and I'm going into a whole spiel. That's the academic.
It's a viral fire we're going through. It's good.
So I think that the confidence is important into getting you into leadership roles, but then humility is important to keep you in those roles. So you got to kind of juggle both of them. So just trying to figure out, a way to kind of just look back and feel proud. Learn to reward yourself when something goes well. Don't say that it was a context or it was someone else's thing or it was circumstances and it was luck.
True.
No, you kind of had to lean into your success because that was you. And so that's the one takeaway, like find ways to build your confidence and to pass it on to the next generation.
Wonderful. Samira, go.
I think just really talking to anyone and everyone who's willing to listen. Relationship building is so critical. Sometimes it's hard to talk to people who are not in your field or not in your same level when it comes to career. So having that comfort level and just doing informational interviews, talking to people who are in C-suite roles and just learning where their journey is from. This is something I tell my daughters a lot, really being comfortable in talking to all kinds of people, learning their journeys, and you'd be surprised how a lot of people have had challenging experiences as well, and you make those connections and and continue to connect because you never know when one of those connections may lead you to something else.
Totally agree with you. Connections. So again, guys, we want to at least at 7:15 open it up to a couple of questions. Sanjana, please.
Know yourself honestly and well, your strengths, your weaknesses, understand that without any sugarcoating. Be open to critiques, and to one thing I learned halfway through when my boss told me, be a lot more assertive.
Very true. Priyanka?
My favorite thing is intellectual curiosity. I'm committed to being a lifelong learner. So for young girls and women, getting back into their second part of career or whatever, I'd say just be open about learning new things. Yeah, that's my concise.
Wonderful. Shri?
Yeah, I would say two things actually. One is try and reduce this voice in your head that tells you you're not, like having that narrative, question it every time. If the narrative comes, step back and listen to it. The other thing I would say is knowing how to communicate is extremely important. Storytelling. We all know a lot more than we can actually express. So if we can learn how to communicate very well, we can gain in confidence. And if you reduce the sound in your head, your communication actually gets better. Yeah.
Very well said. Dia?
So showing up and networking, especially in my profession, networking is very important. And it wasn't easy for me because I think growing up, I was actually, more of an introvert. And I used to find it, like I used to think so much before going to events, oh, what if I don't find anybody there I can talk to, like all of that. But then I realized like it's also you have to be authentic, right? You can be like, not every good networker looks the same. You can be, you should go with the intent of building relationships, right? And even if you talk to only one or two people, as long as, you set the foundation for a good relationship, I think that's, and I've gained a lot, from going to events, meeting people outside my firm or, just my immediate circle. So I'd say that's important to show up and put yourself out there.
Thank you. Vidya?
Great. So a couple of the panelists, mentioned some of my top things, but let me reiterate with the double click. One, Shri, what you said about being a very compelling storyteller in how you communicate and influence, that was top for me. The second, Priyanka, you talked about being a lifelong learner. And I want to say, especially in this era of AI and digital, really understanding how that's going to disrupt whatever profession you're in, embracing the technology, not being afraid of it, but being very intentional to go after it, I would say is really critical to stay relevant. And I want to touch on the first thing that Geeta said, very compelling, but maybe a framework is how do you build trust, right? How do you build trust in your relationships in a very compelling way so you can be authentic, you can speak up, you can as women, have like we don't suffer from we tend to suffer from an imposter syndrome, but how do we kind of get over that by being really strategic? I would say building trust. And I do like a book by Stephen Covey called Speed of Trust, and it talks about specific behaviors you need to avoid or lean into as well. And so that's one thing I would recommend.
Wonderful. Amazing takeoffs. And I'd like to sum and end this with the most important. Enjoy the process. If everything is done with an expectation of a positive outcome, many times we don't enjoy the process. And the day we start enjoying just the being, the process of being engaged in whatever we do, we will do very well because we'll give it its all and we will actually yield better results. And I find that many times we create a society for younger people where they're only looking at the outcome, and then what happens is they tend to look for shortcuts. So I love the fact that we all feel the same way. Learning is important, curiosity is important, trust is important, relationship building is important. Thank you, everybody. This was wonderful. And now I'd like to actually pass the baton to, I guess, Mira or Sophie or Daya, so that you can take the questions. I'm sure we have, we have time for a couple of questions. I would like you guys to moderate that.
Yes, we have got a couple of questions in the
Wonderful.
chat. So the first one is from Ashwati. She wanted to clarify on one of the insights that you were
Oh,
asking the
yeah.
panelists
So I see
about.
that. So
Yeah.
Ashwati had this question for, so maybe Samira can answer this because Samira took an 8-year hiatus before she came back to work. So the question is, what advice would you have for women who try to relaunch after a career break?
Great question. Just a little background. I started working right after my undergrad in computer science. I was a software developer, so very different from what I'm doing right now. And, worked long hours, loved my job in my early 20s, got married, had kids, and took time off. And I actually was a stay-at-home mom for 8 years before going back to the workplace. And, and I joined the workplace. I was applying for jobs during the recession. So I was competing against equally or more better candidates who already had a continuous career path, a career journey. So which was very challenging. But, I applied. I was, and that's why I said relationship building is key, because part of it is having confidence in yourself that because you do have the skill set. So first, remember to say that out loud. Sometimes you have to say that out loud because as women, we have a tendency to not put ourselves down. We're very self-critical of ourselves. We are our worst enemy. So you have to just first say that you do have the skill set, and I know there's a theme of confidence. Believe in yourself, have that confidence in yourself, and apply and talk to people, and then have that again. Community is so important. Talk to people who would kind of review your resume, look at your profiles, look at your social media links, and see how how you stand there, and tailor your application for each job. Shouldn't be just cookie cutter, and be authentic. I know that was another theme as well. Be authentic and just keep on applying and never give up. Even when I got the job, I doubted myself. 8 years is a long time. It's not 1 year or 2 years. It's 8 years. It's a very long time. It's like, did I forget everything? Because you're a new mom too. So I forget how to be an adult. in the corporate world. But surprisingly, it all does come back. It came back on the first day. So it's like I
The
never.
muscle works, the mental muscle works. I
And
want to now piggyback that. So here you heard from someone who actually came back after 8 years. And now I'll ask Vidya, who is in HR and talent strategy. Vidya, Vidya, can you mute? So Vidya, let's look at it from the employer perspective. And how do you look at someone who's had a break? And what would be key experiences you're looking for in the person who has this break, but whose resume you might find interesting?
Yeah. So I would say um, I think at the end of the day, the more progressive companies and companies in general, what they care about is like what skill sets you have, what experiences you've had, and then when you look at a particular role, are you able to deliver against it? So I think when you've taken a break, and I personally did that. I took a 2 year break, and when I went back, I went back to and I switched from HR from IT, as I explained, going into HR. I think sometimes education helps. So do a course, do something that's related into the field that you're going into, and make sure you talk about that. And then when you've taken a break, and as you're again telling that story to the employer, I'm sure at that point in time you were juggling something, whether it's school or kids, Samira, in your case, kids, and you're doing community things as well. So those are leadership moments also. So make sure that in telling your story, you talk about what impact you had on your community or what you did during that time that speaks to some of the skills that your employer is looking for. Finally, from a company perspective, I would say, even in the company that I'm working for, we realize that women leave the workplace because they're prioritizing children, or they have a dual career situation, and so someone's career needs to take a back seat in order to keep the family and finances running. So we've had even a program called the Reignite program, where we're trying to bring, like, for example, women engineers back into the workplace. So I would say look out for companies that have such programs so that you can ease yourself back, use education as a conduit, and then ease yourself back, as well as reflect on the leadership skills you've built through even your life experiences in making sure you're making that transition in. Mm.
Beautifully said.
Nandini, if I can add to that, Nandini, if I
I'm
can
sorry,
add
go
to
ahead,
that,
Sanjana.
1 minute. So I didn't take a break, but I did work
Oh, you did?
part-time for a while, for almost 10 years before I went back full-time. And in academia, in medicine, adding to everything they said, keeping in touch, developing new skill sets. Final thing is, don't beat yourself about the fact that you're not where you're supposed to be.
Very
It will
true.
happen, and you have to make peace with that, and things fall into place.
That advice from Sanjana is so important, because I think when we were receiving questions initially from everybody, from all the women, that was the whole thing. How do you make up? And I think the race is only in your own head, right? About, oh, where you were, what you were. You're technically, by taking that break, you took life on you actually took, you empowered
Control.
yourself.
Yeah, control of your own destiny.
Yeah, you took control. So please, I think this is wonderful advice, and we ending the note saying, empower yourself, believe in yourself. Hey, I couldn't have asked for a better group of friends to be in this panel discussion. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Gigi, I do want to say one thing. Sorry, I know that there were a lot of other questions as
There
well.
are, yes.
Yeah.
And I think that, so sorry. So before you go into that, Sophie, I just want to make one comment. I don't know how relevant this is, but I see a lot of themes on the questions around work-life balance. I'm sure that a lot of people would like to answer that, especially people who have
Please do. Yeah.
more than one children. But I'll just say one comment I want to make is if this was if it was all men who were talking about their careers, they wouldn't be asking so many questions on work-life balance. So I just want to point that out, because we need to be, everybody has our own circumstances, and I don't want to kind of like make a statement that is generic. But yes, but we must question the role of only the woman being the one who is taking care of things. Something to question, and then something to take back to the family and have a discussion. That's, I just want to put it out there.
So,
Well said.
sorry to
Thank
add
you.
on to that too. I sit on a wellness committee, and actually, a lot of the work-life balance questions nowadays come from men too.
Oh, yeah?
So it's interesting how the younger generation, I feel so old at this point, view this issue. I've heard so many younger male physicians ask about paternity, ask about time when their children are sick, about childcare. So it's changing. Maybe medicine is way more progressive than corporate America, but it is changing, but very slowly.
Good. Great.
Great news. What else? Can you look at some of the other questions?
There is a question saying, do we have any in-person event in the future so we can connect with everyone personally? We definitely want to continue this, and we have this talented people with us, and we want to go deep into it. That we have HR, we have other people, doctors, everyone is here. So, we are definitely going to do that. But these people are from different places already. So we need to find out people who are in New Jersey. And if you can come out to New Jersey, that will be great. So we will definitely do it, okay?
I think most of us are within commutable distance, except Shri. Shri has a house here, so she'll come.
I'll come to visit my Chechi.
What about Samira Chechi?
Samira Chechi is also close enough, 5 hours.
I have a house in New Jersey, don't forget.
Yeah,
That's true,
Samira
that's true.
Chechi is
Oh,
there.
by the way, I just want to mention that Samira Chechi is our former president, Panikarango's daughter, and I'm really, really happy to have you here. Thank you.
Thank you,
Is
sir.
that Joe Panikar's daughter?
That is correct,
Oh,
Asha.
Late Joe Panikar.
Oh my.
Samira lives in Boston now. Yeah, but absolutely, we all, can definitely make that time so that we can all help the larger community. I think that was the intent.
And also, I know you guys have a lot of in your mind. Maybe we can send you a questionnaire or something so we can get some feedback, and maybe we can send it to these people. They can reply to it. Of course, you will do it for us. So we are waiting for that. So let us know if you have any questions, if you want to, know more about this, subjects or anything. Just let us know, okay?
And definitely, I'll encourage everyone to connect with each other on LinkedIn. That is a professional platform, and we should leverage that. Yeah.
And also, we should add these people in our WhatsApp group too, Chechi.
You're asking me, Chechi, that?
And then Chechi.
If you ask everyone here, I think all the WhatsApp chats just get like that, because we need a management system to manage that, right? But definitely, I mean, our intent, every person here obviously is very community minded. So that is why they are part of this. So we absolutely support it. The time is 7:25. It's Sunday night. Thank you, everybody. What else is there now?
Before that, Sangeeta?
Sangeeta?
Sangeeta will be doing the last part, vote of thanks.
Oh, thank you, Sangeeta.
Wow, such a wonderful, power-packed session, I would say, before I start with my vote of thanks. On behalf of Kanj and Women United, I would like to express my heartfelt gratitude to all of you for joining us this evening. A special thanks to our panelists and for sharing their wonderful stories, and to our amazing moderator for guiding us through the smooth transition. We are really grateful to our dedicated committee members for their hard work in putting this event together. Most importantly, thank you, each and every one of you, for taking time to be with us today on this Sunday evening. Your presence and participations are truly made this event meaningful and memorable. We are definitely looking forward to see you all in our future events. Thank you once again, and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye. So let me personally thank each of you, Geeta, Samira, Sanjana, Priyanka, Vidya, Tia, Shri, thank you for making the time and to making this a great experience for everyone here. Thank you, guys.
Before we close, is there any way we can take a picture with everyone? Whoever in here, turn off your videos.
That have the black screens. Come on, guys. I know
Can we
all
just
of you.
do it? Can you?
Yeah. Sure.
Daya, can you unpin Sangeeta
turn
and
on or
put
turn off?
everyone together? I'll take the picture.
Oh, nice. I love this. Beautiful.
Let me get everyone. I don't see everyone together though.
Yeah.
The
that's
Shaila
hard.
Kuti, it may be your screen.
Oh, Vijay is here, our vice
I
president.
know, I see the little one there.
We need more guys here. That's what Nandini Chichi was saying earlier.
Well, Raj is here, Vijay is here.
Yeah, we're right here.
Can you see
But in the next
everybody?
generation.
I see her.
Daya, will you be able to take the picture? Because I don't see everyone in my screen. I see Sangeeta, Nandini Chichi, and Sri pinned it.
She's here. She disappeared for a short bit, but she's here. Okay. All right, guys. Are we good? I got everyone.
You got everyone?
Yep.
Okay. Just send it in the group for me.
Thanks, Chitre.
Thank you.
Nandini, I have a
Thank
question.
you all.
Nandini, if there are specific questions asked to you, would you be sending it across, or is that what's going to happen?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, that's now the committee members are going to do it. I was just a conduit.
And she
Good
did
job
that
conduiting it.
wonderfully. So we are very
Wonderful, yeah.
thankful to her. And we will try to answer all your questions. That's why I said earlier, just send it to us and then we will forward to Nandini Chechi or one of our panelists. Okay?
Thank you, everybody. Good
Thank
night.
you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Good night.